What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special. And you may have noticed that over the last couple of weeks, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have been on one heck of a run. And you may be wondering what's going on. Well, it turns out we may be looking at a Bitcoin shortage in the very near future. You ready? Hit it. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jack Gamble, and I'm Nobody Special. And you may have noticed Bitcoin has had one heck of a run since the start of October. It's now trading at around $57,000, and it's threatening to reclaim the previous all-time high around $64,000. So what is going on? Well, it turns out what we could be facing with Bitcoin is a supply shortage. Now, that may be a little counterintuitive, but you have to look at this peculiar indicator that has gotten a lot of attention lately called the LTH supply shock ratio. Now, before we get into that, folks, I have to ask, please, could you smash that big, beautiful like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell? Really helps me out, helps me to keep this channel growing. Now, the other thing I want to point out real quick, and I have to do this before anybody gets involved in the crypto space, you must understand that the Tether issue is still out there. And if you're not familiar with what's going on over at Tether, or what could be going on over at Tether, you owe it to yourself to research that topic and understand it fully before you get involved in cryptocurrency, because the Tether story could break any day, and it could bring crypto markets crashing down. Now, that could happen today, that could happen next year, 10 years from now, or it could never happen. But if that does happen, if it turns out that Tether is a scam, as many claim it to be, it would be buku bad news for crypto, Bitcoin especially. Okay? So, that being said, I also have to say I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, your own DD, and arrive at a decision that's right for you based on your unique situation. Now, with that, let's shrink my big fat melon of a head and look at this Bitcoin price chart. Put me over here, make me a little bit smaller. All right, so we're looking here at a 3-month chart of Bitcoin prices, and you'll notice up here and to the right, we are struggling to break above this $57,000, $58,000 level. We've been threatening for a couple days now, and if you zoom out a little bit, let's look at a 1-year chart. You can see the technical significance of the level we're at right now. This is prior resistance, prior support. So it makes sense that we would bounce around a little bit here. We could break lower, we could break through, and then up we go to challenge the new highs, which has a previous high of around $64,000. Now, what is going on in the Bitcoin market right now is not due to any technical analysis. It's not due to any chart pattern. What's going on right now is the Bitcoin market is less liquid than it has ever been at any point in history. Now, what do I mean by liquid? See, the lion's share of Bitcoin is held by whales and by long-term holders. All right, whales being people who own huge amounts of Bitcoin that they bought when it was pennies, they haven't sold. And actually, almost 80% of all Bitcoin in existence is either lost forever or sitting in wallets where it has not moved in over a year. And that's why I say the Bitcoin market is very illiquid, because once wallets come off of exchanges and go into cold storage or sit in wallets for years on end, they tend to no longer be in circulation, which means they're not being bought and sold. They're not affecting price movement. That also means that a shrinking population of Bitcoin is now up for grabs. And if you have new buyers being drawn into the market, there is a less liquid market for them to draw from. So less money has more of an impact on the price movement of Bitcoin. And there are people saying right now that Bitcoin could go over $100,000 within this calendar year, 2021. Now, that's a bit of a stretch, right? Because Bitcoin right now has over a $1 trillion market cap. And if they're saying Bitcoin's going to go to $100,000 this year, that's almost another trillion in market cap in Bitcoin. But it will not take $1 trillion in new investments to make that happen. That's important because the Bitcoin market is so illiquid, it would only take a fraction of that amount of money, say a new Bitcoin ETF getting approved, or some new hedge fund or some new big BlackRock or someone like that getting involved. A couple of $1 billion could create a price swing of that magnitude, believe it or not. And to understand that, you have to look at the long-term hodler supply shock ratio. And this is kudos to an outfit called Glassnode. who has come up with this term. Now, what you're looking at on this chart here, all right, gray line is Bitcoin's price, and this goes back to 2015. Now, I have to point out that the gray price chart, the gray line, that is a logarithmic chart, okay? And log charts, besides giving nobody special a headache, are difficult to really conceptualize and to model mentally, because you have to keep in mind the move from 4 to 600, how much of a move that is on the graph versus the move from, say, 2,000 to 6,000, right? So as we get towards the upper bands of this chart, we're actually looking at huge price movements, even though they only show up as small upticks on the chart. That's important. Now, this green line, this is the meat and potatoes of this chart. The green line is the LTH supply shock ratio. And what that measures is the ratio of the illiquid Bitcoin to the liquid Bitcoin. Illiquid Bitcoin being Bitcoin that has not moved in a year or more, or is just lost outright, has been pulled off the exchanges, has gone into cold storage, over the number of Bitcoin that has been traded within the last year. The Bitcoin that is on the exchanges. The Bitcoin that is being bought by momentum chasers, by FOMO buyers, right? Actually, believe it or not, most of my Bitcoin has been bought within the last year, even though I have no intention of selling my Bitcoin anytime soon. Most of my Bitcoin, believe it or not, falls in the liquid category, even though it's not for sale. Very soon it'll start becoming illiquid, because my Bitcoin turns 1 soon, or some of my Bitcoin turns 1 soon. But you'll notice this green line, the ratio of illiquid Bitcoin, the long-term held stuff, as a multiple of the short-term held stuff, is higher than at any point in history. It's up over 4 right now. There's 4 Bitcoin that is in cold storage, not moving, for every Bitcoin that is being traded back and forth on the exchanges right now. And if you'll notice in this chart, anytime we've been in this neighborhood, in this green band at the top of the chart, for the LTH supply shock ratio, anytime we've been this high, has preceded a major move in Bitcoin price. And here we are right now at an all-time high. And the other thing I'll point out, that in the last couple of days or so, even as Bitcoin price has rallied almost $10,000 in the last couple of days, this ratio continues to go up, which means at least right now, no new Bitcoin is going up for sale, even though the price is going up, which means in order to entice those people to sell, the price has to go higher. And you'll notice the last time we were anywhere near this level, January of 2021. And look what the price did through all of 2021. And this is why people are saying Bitcoin may be headed to 100,000 this year. Now, I don't know that we're going to 100,000 that fast, right? There's less than 3 months left in the year. That would be a phenomenal move. However, the data, the historical examples, does exist that supports that case. Again, I have to preface that Tether story is still out there, so the opposite could happen. The Tether story could break and Bitcoin could crash 50%. So it's important to understand that. And if you're wondering, this is the chart. This comes from glassnode.com, and this is the pie chart representing the ratio of illiquid Bitcoin to the liquid Bitcoin. Now, you'll notice there's highly liquid. That's the stuff. That's your day traders, your swing traders, your momentum chasers. And then there's the green and 6%. That is the modestly liquid Bitcoin. That's the stuff that maybe hasn't moved in a few months. It's getting close to a year, but it's not quite there yet. A lot of my Bitcoin would fall into this category. But the lion's share, this 78% of Bitcoin, this is Bitcoin that has not moved in over a year. Some of it several years. Some of it, like Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, the first that was ever mined, is still sitting in its wallet, its original wallet. So again, the important thing to look at here is that when we say the Bitcoin market, most of the Bitcoin market, the available Bitcoin for sale at any given time, is in this blue wedge of the pie. So when we say Bitcoin could go up to 100,000 in the next couple of weeks even, what they're saying is that Bitcoin in the blue wedge may be trading at that level, which will bring everything up to that level. Now, the other thing I want to point out, again on this long-term holder supply shock ratio, is that as price rises quickly, it tends to bring some of the Bitcoin from the long-term holders back into the exchanges to the liquid pool, right? But that takes time. The price, and that makes sense, right? As price rises, people are naturally drawn back into the market to take profits, right? And we've seen that anytime there's been these big rises in Bitcoin price, we've seen corresponding drops in the LTH supply shock indicator. Okay, so this is an interesting data point. Again, there's so much more data that makes up the total supply demand dynamic of the market. So this is not carved in stone. And again, we have that Tether story that's still out there. But you will hear in the coming days, especially as Bitcoin threatens to make all-time highs, you may see more and more people start to talk about this LTH supply shock ratio data point. And the fact that there is just not enough Bitcoin for sale at these prices in order to keep prices where they're at. As more and more people are drawn into buying Bitcoin, there's still the same amount of Bitcoin for sale. There's not that much being mined. And so the price naturally is rising. And it's part of why there is this deflationary element built into Bitcoin. Now, again, I have to preface here by saying I am not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. Do your own research, your own DD, and arrive at a decision that's right for you based on your unique situation. But my position on Bitcoin remains unchanged. Okay, my position on cryptocurrency remains unchanged. I do two things when it comes to crypto. Number one, I mine Ethereum, small amounts. I don't own that much mining equipment. It's just a small amount of money I make on the side. I like Ethereum. I like its use cases. Think analogy, Ethereum is your silver that has a lot of industrial applications, smart contracts, DeFi, etc. And then Bitcoin is your digital gold. Don't jump down my throat. I am not saying Bitcoin or Ethereum is a substitute for physical precious metals. They do not live in the same space, folks. One is highly speculative and highly volatile, and the other is a solid preservation of capital. They are two totally different investment classes. The other thing I do is I dollar cost average into Bitcoin. I buy a set dollar amount of Bitcoin every week, no questions asked, regardless of price. I don't try to time the markets. I am not a market timer. Anybody who tells you they can time markets in Bitcoin is fooling themselves, because Bitcoin is just way too volatile to accurately predict. And like I said, there are these black swan events out there, like the BitConnect Ponzi scheme from a few years ago, the Mt. Gox hack, and now who knows what's going on with Tether. And the China Evergrande story may affect Tether and could affect the crypto market. So there's so many things going on in the crypto market that to try to time it's a fool's errand, in my opinion. Maybe there are people who are good enough at this stuff to do it. I'm not one of them. So I just dollar cost average into Bitcoin, and I don't look back. And I have no intention of selling anytime soon. I've made the case several times in past videos. I believe before this decade is out, Bitcoin will be over $1 million. There are two halving schedules, the next one in 2024, the next one in 2028. And every time there's been a halving in the past, the price of Bitcoin has increased several X. And if we're trading at 50,000 now, two halvings left before the decade is out, I don't think it's that far-fetched that we're going to $1 million before the end of the decade. Now, again, not financial advice, but my approach has always been I use an app called Swan or Swan Bitcoin to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. I buy a set amount every week, regardless of price. I like Swan. It has great security features. The fees are very low. I've several times been able to pull my coins off of Swan and put them into cold storage without issue. So I find between the low fees, the good security, and the ease of use that this is a pretty good app. If you're interested in checking it out, I'll put a link down in the description of this video. If you use that link to sign up, you'll get $10 of free Bitcoin. Full disclosure, that is an affiliate link. All right, and I will always be upfront with you guys when using affiliate links. I'll always let you know of that. That being said, I use this app myself. I stand by it. I enjoy the service. I have had nothing but a good experience with it. So, long story short, the fact that so many people buy Bitcoin and then park it in cold storage and leave it there for years on end means the actual Bitcoin market, the Bitcoin that is up for grabs, is only a small fraction of the Bitcoin that's in existence. And therefore, it will not necessarily take that much new capital entering the Bitcoin market to drive the price considerably higher. And that's what's causing some Bitcoin maxis to come up with price targets such as $100,000 before the end of this year. Again, I'm not saying that's really going to... I have a hard time seeing that, but we've seen bigger, faster moves in Bitcoin in the past. So it is not outside the realm of all possibilities. And again, the Tether situation is still out there. Make sure you understand that before you get involved in cryptocurrency, because that could have the opposite effect and it could send Bitcoin down tens of thousands of dollars. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for your time. Please don't forget, hit that big, beautiful like button, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell. It really helps me out, helps me to keep this channel growing. I'd be forever in your debt. Folks, in the meantime, live small and dream big.